Reagan, because so much of it did. In 1981, Ronald Reagan started the first detention centers for undocumented immigrants. They were black Haitians. And this was Ronald Reagan's way in his first year of his presidency of declaring to the white supremacists and the racists and bigots in the Republican Party that, hey, we're here and we're on it. This is the guy who campaigned saying, when that young buck is standing in front of you in line in the supermarket buying steak and beer with his food stamps, doesn't it piss you off? This is the guy who went to where the three civil rights workers, Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, were murdered down in Mississippi, and gave a speech on states' rights to an all-white audience. I could go on, but anyhow, Reagan started this in '81. He opened the first detention centers. CoreCivic and Geo Group were both created, or CoreCivic ran the first one in 1982, I think it was, and Geo Group became a thing in '84. So this all started with Reagan, and from there, and by the way, there was a consensus at that time, and a consensus that lasted right up, I would argue, until this last year, among Americans, broadly speaking. Much stronger among Republicans than among Democrats, but still, I mean, the polling in 2016 was that roughly 80% of Republicans and about 50% of Democrats thought that the security of our southern border was a real issue that the government needed to address. And the aspect of it that people were concerned about was criminals. Now, there was secondarily also an economic aspect to it that I don't much get into in the article, but everybody knows, which is the idea that people here without documentation were diluting our workforce and thus driving down wages. So anyhow, there was this broad consensus, and so presidents from Reagan forward, and no Democrats have stopped this. In fact, Clinton increased the capacity of the detention centers more than any other president until Trump. They had been, the whole premise of this thing is we're going to go after the worst of the worst. And like I said, most Americans were like gung-ho, yeah, do it. In fact, when Trump was reelected in 2024, there was a substantial cohort of Hispanics, of Latinos, who voted for him because he had promised basically to clean up their communities. I mean, people who are Hispanic and first and second generation immigrants and here legally were sick and tired of their communities being trashed and being robbed and raped and whatnot by people who were here, criminals who were not here legally. And they thought, hey, Trump is going to clean it up. So you had a whole bunch of Latinos who even voted for Trump. Then came the first policy turn. And this happened during the first Trump administration. And that was when they stopped detaining and deporting criminals and started detaining and deporting Jose the gardener and Maria the maid, and Mateo the small business owner, and et cetera. And this became a pretty big thing under Trump. It was basic, and then Beer Bong Kavanaugh, Brett Kavanaugh, weighed in and said, and ICE, by the way, can stop someone just based on the color of their skin. And so we got the so-called Kavanaugh stops. So that was the first turn. It went from we're going after the criminals to we're going after people with brown skin. Then the second turn was when they said, instead of just going after people with brown skin, we're going to go after people with brown skin who are immigrants, who are here legally, fully legal, with green cards, and this guy had been approved for naturalization. He could have become a U.S. citizen. He was in the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. He had been in the United States for over 30 years. He has 6 children, 9 grandchildren. They're all U.S. citizens. He owns a business, and he's the leader of the largest mosque in Wisconsin. But he had spoken out on behalf of Palestinian rights. And so they busted him. And his name is Sarsour, his last name. And in fact, I just saw that I missed putting his first name in the article. Anyhow, this is what The Guardian wrote. On March 30th, on his way to see his elderly mother, when he was surrounded, he said, by at least 10 unmarked vehicles and armed agents in civilian clothing, and whisked away, first to a detention center near Chicago and later miles away to a facility in Indiana. When Sarsour, who has no criminal record in the U.S., was first detained, he thought the agents had mistaken him for someone else. When they tried to get him to sign paperwork agreeing to be deported, he refused. I was very confused, he said. Only as his ordeal protracted into days did he realize he had been targeted for his activism. That really shocked me, to be honest, he said. And he was only released because a judge, a guy by the name of Patrick Hanlon, said that he was being held because of his speech, not because of his immigration status, which is, obviously true. But he's in court today in Chicago, and we'll see where this story goes. But now but he was held for 80 days in one of these concentration camps. Actually, in 2 of them. And so now Trump's concentration camps have officially been used to hold people whose views the administration doesn't like, even though they're here legally. All right, so we went from criminals to undocumented/illegals to fully documented, on the path to citizenship, people who simply spoke out. And then we come to Trump's NSPM 7, his National Security Presidential Memorandum 7 from last September, September 25th, in which he said that anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, extremism on migration, race, gender, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, on religion, and on morality, are all potential domestic terrorists. Now, the wild thing is that there is no definition of domestic terrorist under American law. And Miles Taylor in the third hour is going to explain to you how the Trump administration is setting up the structure to use our laws against international terrorism to come after progressives in the United States. And it was, in fact, used last month to indict 15 protesters in Minneapolis. And now Marco Rubio has essentially declared that it's a loaded gun that is pointed at anybody that the Trump administration opposes, or even progressive members of the Democratic Party. And the excuse or weapon that they're apparently planning to use is Cuba. For Rubio, it's a twofer. If he can take down Cuba, that's going to help his run for president in 2028. But he needs an excuse. And that excuse also provides Trump, Vance, and Miller and their buddies with a fine opportunity to start rounding up American progressives. Rubio labeled Cuba the capital of 21st century communism. I talked about this some yesterday. And this document names American citizens for having visited Cuba. Including, my colleagues David Pakman, Amy Goodman, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, calling them basically leftist collaborators. So now this architecture is in place. ICE has billions to expand their concentration camps. They've spread their secret mass police across every corner of America. They're tied into flock cameras and Palantir databases on pretty much every American citizen. And they've demonstrated that they're invulnerable to local law enforcement. They can harass, beat, and kill people without any consequence whatsoever. So now the Trump regime, like Putin did before him and Hitler did before him, have identified the enemy within who must be purged and segregated from society. Might be a good time to reach out to your member of Congress and tell them that you're a little concerned about this.
Fight back!
Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar. Plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and has squeaked through 216 to 212. 7 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, a costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem. That's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. And here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly a third of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The Foreign Maligned Office Center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history, and now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the Bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, "This is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do." And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. My daily writings, where I take on the big picture issues of our day at hartmannreport.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, it's Thursday, and we have a great program for you today. They made you fear and hate your neighbors so that you could rob your future. Seriously, what is the Republican strategy? Well, we'll get into that in just a moment. Also, who's guarding the voting machines now? I mean, Trump says we should worry, right? And is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? You betcha. I'll give you the details and the names of the Democrats who voted for it. Meanwhile, in the second hour of our program, Phil Ittner is going to drop by with a live Ukraine update. There's a lot going on over in that part of the world. And are we selling Saudi Arabia the very same thing that we're bombing Iran about? And if so, why? Does it have to do with Saudi Arabia giving Trump's family literally $2 billion? And also in the second hour of our program, retired little old ladies against underwater garbage. We'll talk about that. In the third hour of our program, Victoria Jones is going to drop by. Britain's new Prime Minister Andy Burnham. And does Larry the cat, the official cat at number 10 Downing Street, approve of Mr. Burnham? And also, why are ICE officers saying that morale is now worse than it was under Biden? All, interesting and solid questions, I suppose. My daily take today, that you can get for free in your email box every day at hartmannreport.com, is titled, "They Made You Fear and Hate Your Neighbors So They Could Rob Your Future." And it's true. I start this article out with a quote from the last actual legitimately elected and honest Republican President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower. In his farewell address to the nation in 1961, on January 20th of 1961, he said, and I quote, "America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate, and be instead a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect." End of quote. It was actually a few days before January 20th, but anyway. But it appears that dreadful fear and hate that Dwight Eisenhower warned us about have actually won. There was a new Lloyd's Register. I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but this is it's really worth focusing on. Lloyd's Register came out of the old Lloyd's Coffee House in the 1720s. And 2 things came out of that coffee house. 2 businesses were started by the guys in that coffee house, the men who hung out there every day. One was called Lloyd's of London, the insurance company. The other is called Lloyd's Register, which basically they do what's called the annual risk survey. They just kind of look around the world and say, where are the risks? And of course, that presumably informs the insurance company, although the 2 companies have been separate, ever since the 1720s. Lloyd's Register was officially formed in 1760. And they do this global risk poll of citizens in the top 140 countries. And, which is, about half the countries in the world, but, the countries who have a GDP bigger than Louisiana, basically. And they asked them, what is the biggest risk that you face as a citizen of your country? Now, most people talk about disease is a risk. Accidents are a risk. War could be a risk. But here in the United States, 1 in 10 Americans, 10% of Americans said politics is the biggest risk we face. Now, the average across the other 139 countries was only 1% of people said politics is the biggest risk we face. There were a few exceptions. For example, 5% of Russians said that politics was the biggest risk they face. And indeed, our politics can harm us. I mean, you know, go out in public with a bleep Trump T-shirt or cap or a bumper sticker. You know, the fear of physical violence, the fear of losing your health care this November when the Republicans' big, beautiful bill kicks in, the Medicaid cuts, the fear of losing your Medicare as the GOP works to strangle that program with both the Medicare Advantage scam and this new thing where in 6 states they're using AI to deny Medicare benefits to people on real Medicare. The scam, the fear of Republicans killing or reforming Social Security. Not to mention Republican-led campaigns to turn our environment over to the fossil fuel industry, our forests to the timber industry, our streams and waters over to the chemical industry, our farms over to the pesticide industry, and our children over to the radical Christian school industry. Not to mention turning our economy over to the crypto industry and the AI industry. And our Republican politicians and the billionaire-owned media that supports them are also continuously telling us to hate and fear, exactly what Dwight Eisenhower warned us against. I mean, if it's not Willie Horton, it's immigrant caravans. If it's not immigrant caravans, it's Muslim bombers. If it's not Muslim bombers, it's murder rapist illegals. In 2024, it was trans people. For this election cycle, Trump, Rubio, Miller, Vance are telling us that we should hate and fear not only the guy mowing your lawn, but also Democratic, socialists, and communists. You know, politics is supposed to help us. It's supposed to support us. Politics is supposed to be the system in a functioning democracy, which we are not. We are an oligarchy now. But in a functioning democracy, politics is where the will of the people gets enacted into law and the government supports the people. But it hasn't been that way since the Reagan Revolution. Since Ronald Reagan turned his party over to the billionaires, and then the billionaires spent the next 45 years seizing control of the entire government and the entire economy. I mean, Republican opposition to any real reforms is why student debt is so high. It's why housing is in the hands of Wall Street hedge funds. It's why health insurance is out of reach for most people. It's why child care is unaffordable. It's why that national system of brand new gleaming schools and hospitals that were built by Eisenhower and Jack Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson are falling into disrepair, and literally 3,000 hospitals have closed since the first Trump administration. And all of that was built, by the way, with a 90% income tax that Eisenhower and Kennedy had and 50% corporate tax. But why? Why are the Republicans doing this? The era from the 30s until the 80s saw the growth of the first, literally in the history of the world, the first country where the middle class became more than 50% of the population with a single paycheck. And what allowed that was the right to unionize and a 90% top income tax rate and a 50% top corporate income tax rate. And Democrats passed during that period of time and subsequently power systems like the TVA and the Hoover Dam, public schools, the Eisenhower Interstate Highway System, public broadcasting, Head Start, food stamps, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, housing projects, VA home loans, hundreds of new airports and train stations, and thousands of smaller efforts. And, our middle class was like the envy of the world. But then Reagan turned everything over to the billionaires, and suddenly we middle-class people were the takers, and they, the billionaires, were the makers. And Lewis Powell handed them a formula to take over the country, which they've done. They created networks of think tanks. They created television networks. They created radio networks. You've got 1,500 right-wing radio stations. You've got 3 right-wing television networks. You've got the majority of television stations in the country now in the hands of 2 right-wing corporations. It just goes on and on and on. It took a few decades. But their bet paid off. And the problem for the billionaires and the Republicans that they own was that most Americans loved what those oligarchs called socialism. I mean, you know, we embraced Social Security, unionization, the minimum wage. We liked it, but the billionaires didn't want to pay for it. And so what did the Republicans do? Well, they said, you know, we can't win an election based on more tax cuts for billionaires. And that's the only thing the only legislative agenda that they've had since 1981 of any consequence, other than making it harder for people to join unions and, you know, polluting the environment. So as Axios reported last week, quote, it's going to be a hate election, a Republican tied to Trump's political operation told Axios. Voters have to hate the Dems more than they hate us, and we have material to work with. The simple fact is, ever since 1981, the the Reagan Revolution, Republicans have not proposed one single piece of legislation that actually helps average people. Even their tax cuts, you know, they'll throw you a bone, but you know, the tax cuts are really for their billionaire funders and the corporations. So what do we do? Because they're going to double down on hate this year. They're proclaiming it. They're telling us. Well, we do a couple things. Number one, we expose them. You know, when somebody echoes anti-trans or anti-black person or anti-immigrant or whatever, you just say, that's hate-mongering. That's beneath you. You inform people. You say, well, please name one piece of legislation since 1981 that Republicans have passed that has helped the average person. They can't. They won't be able to. There's no such thing. And point out that Democrats are responsible for all of these programs that we all depend upon. Literally all of them. And then, you know, quote Eisenhower saying at the end of his farewell address, we pray that people of all faiths, all races, all nations may have their great human needs satisfied, that those now denied opportunity shall come to enjoy it to the full, that those who yearn for freedom may experience its spiritual blessings, that those who have freedom will understand, too, its heavy responsibilities, that all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, that the scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made to disappear from the earth, and that in the goodness of time, all people will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I miss Dwight Eisenhower. 17 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Stephen in Philadelphia. Hey, Stephen, what's on your mind today?
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call. I'll try to be brief, but you already know me. It's hard for me to do. I'm here in Pennsylvania. I grew up here. A very long story, kind of so long. Our state Senate has been stuck in Republican hands for 32 years, and it's possible, but not likely, we can flip that around this time. They have to flip 4 seats. And so this, obviously, we need to flip the federal Congress around also. But if people are either in Pennsylvania want to support Pennsylvania, the idea is that there's a guy in PA1 is at the federal level named Brian Fitzpatrick. They need to flip him. But there's several people running in several districts around the state running for state office. And for instance, Pennsylvania is still stuck at $7.25 an hour wages. The state house is in Democratic control. They keep putting a bill to raise that. Even West Virginia, Ohio is like $10, $11 an hour. So even Republican states surrounding us have vastly increased things. But when they send the bill to the state Senate puts it in committee, and of course it just dies there. So again, people can kind of like Google around whatever, but again, the idea is to look for the state level offices. You know, I mean, hopefully they can fix things at the federal level, but we also need to fix things at the state level. That could apply, as your screener mentioned, to all states. They could maybe something that they can progress along, even if not that much, at a state level where they may not be able to, or they may not have enough oomph at federal level yet. So like it'd be nice to have a federal minimum wage increase, but in lieu of that, you know, they just have a state level wage. But as I said, the problem in Pennsylvania is it's been stuck for 30 years. You know, they really need to fix that. It's not likely to happen, but it could happen. It just like the state house is by 1 or 2 seats maximum, and there's 203 people there. That's in Democratic hands, not by much. But the state Senate is 51 members, and it's at least 4 they have to flip things around. So it's going to be a tough hoe. But again, the idea is people are either interested, they can Google and find more information, or even if they're just in the, let's say they live in Ohio, they could still support campaigns like repost literature or maybe send a couple bucks if they have it to those particular candidates. So I appreciate you letting me take my time mentioning, but that's kind of my
great rant, Stephen.
Spiel.
Great rant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. Jackie in Port Townsend, Washington. Hey, Jackie, what's up? Jackie?
Hi, this is kind of anything goes summer.
Sure.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
I'm here.
Well, I just wanted to tell you about a really cool thing we had in Port Townsend on Flag Day. And it was celebrating the 250th birthday founding. It was put on by the League of Women Voters of Jefferson County. And it was kind of emulating lyceums of the past. And we had townspeople delivering speeches by respected elected officials and others during distinctive periods of our history. And it was a program in 3 acts. The first act was the vision. And these are condensed speeches because we wanted to get 14 speeches in 2.5 hours.
And the second act?
So the first speech was George Washington's farewell address.
Wow.
And then Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the Code Talkers. Then we had the struggle. Then we had Our Work Continues.
That's great.
And
I'm sorry we're running out of time, Jackie, but
it was something
that
people
just
could
sounds
do.
wonderful. The League of Women Voters, that is marvelous. Jackie, thank you for sharing that story with us, and it is something people can do. Thank you. It's 21 and a half minutes past the hour. Tired of news that protects the powerful? Get reporting with a backbone at the Commonwealth Report. News for the public, not the powerful. Twice daily, visit commonwealthreport.news and subscribe today, because democracy belongs to all of us. You know, Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew both took cash bribes while they were in the White House. Since then, you know, the Supreme Court, or at least 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court, made it a lot easier for politicians to take bribes with their Citizens United decision, which basically legalized political bribery as long as it's done through campaigns or PACs or super PACs. But for some people, there's just never enough money, right? Donald Trump has been running small-time hustles to make money for decades, selling sneakers, Bibles, steaks, vodka, water. But now he's hit the big time. He's got these fungible tokens, right? These fungible crypto assets, which are basically just digital pictures of Donald Trump that say, fight, fight, fight. And he has turned them into an $8 billion machine. His wife is in on this too, with his Trump coin. It's a new way that foreign powers and billionaires in the United States can just shovel money into Donald Trump's pocket. There's a whole article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled Presidential Payola, The Evolution of Political Bribery. Check it out.
They sold us fear and bought our lives, turned friend on friend with endless lies. While we were fighting over smoke, they stole the jobs, the dreams, the hope. Every lie had a price, every headline hit a heist. They made us fear our neighbors, so we'd never see their crime. They robbed our future, one lie at a time. Stand up, speak out, break their disguise. The day we stop believe in fear is the day their power dies.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So as families struggle to afford groceries, the Republican-controlled House passed a couple of pieces of legislation here over the last 2 days. First of all, they passed this $1.5 trillion bill, or $1.15 trillion military budget. This is unprecedented. This is massive. And then on top of that, and by the way, Mark Pocan came out and said the American people are sick and tired of funding atrocities abroad and want this war with Iran to end. Year after year, the Pentagon fails its audit with virtually no accountability. And he goes on about that. But then they also funded $73 billion in additional funding for the U.S. military for the war in Iran. This is $1,100 per American household at a time when 45% of Americans say they can't afford groceries. Meanwhile, a war powers resolution that would have curbed Trump. Now, again, this doesn't have the force of law. It's just a resolution saying, please, passed the House yesterday by a vote of 214 to 218 because 4 Republicans joined the Democrats, Fitzpatrick, Davidson, Barrett, and Massey. And, you recall a couple of weeks ago in June, actually, both the House and the Senate passed a resolution asking Trump to dial back his war in Iran. And, of course, he's just ignoring that. Meanwhile, Trump has gutted the agency to guard our voting machines. At the same time that Americans are furious about the war in Iran, Trump is gutting our voting machines and has shut down or gutting the agencies that protect them. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, it's gone basically. At the same time, the Kash Patel is planning on going to Russia. I mean, what the hell is up with that? We shut down 3 agencies that protect us against foreign interference in our elections. And then Kash Patel, who once, was paid $25,000 to star in a movie that was fronting for Russia, basically. Our FBI director, is heading over to Russia just before the election. What the hell's going on here? It's amazing. And then there's this stock trading ban. I got to tell you about this right after the break, and I'll pick up your calls, so stick around. It's Anything Goes Summer.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where despair is not an option. I'll be right back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar, plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and has squeaked through 216 to 212. 7 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, a costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem, that's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. And here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly a third of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The Foreign Maligned Office Center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history. And now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, this is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do. And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Daily Writings, where I take on the big picture issues of our day at hartmanreport.com. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. So the Stop Insider Trading Act, House Resolution 7008, is supposed to make it harder for members of Congress to trade stocks on inside information. And we've got a whole bunch of members of Congress, basically the entire Republican caucus and maybe half of the Democrats, who have become multimillionaires in Congress by trading on insider information, because the laws that should send Donald Trump to jail, have sent others to jail. Oh, what was her name? The woman who went to jail for stock trading, who was Martha Stewart. That law that sent Martha Stewart to jail does not apply to members of Congress. They carved out an exception for themselves. So now we're trying to fix that. And Democrats proposed this legislation. It was fairly weak. There's actually a much stronger one, but this was the one that Mike Johnson decided he'd go with. But then he attached to it the SAVE Act, basically. He said, oh, and by the way, if we pass this and the Senate passes it and Trump signs it, women who have changed their names because they got married but did not go before a judge won't be able to vote. People who can't find their original birth certificate or can't afford to get a certified copy or can't even, get a certified copy because they were a home birth or whatever, they won't be able to vote. People who don't have passports won't be able to vote. It's just, we're going to make it really hard. So they attach that to it. Now, you would think that the Democrats would say, this is nuts, we're not going to vote for it. But 13 Democrats voted in favor of it. This is crazy. These are the people who are the problem, in my opinion. And they are Kathy Castor of Florida, Henry Cuellar of Texas, Don Davis of North Carolina, Jared Golden of Maine, Vicente Gonzalez of Texas, Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey, Marcy Kaptur of Ohio, Susan Lee of Nevada, Jared Moskowitz of Florida, Chris Pappas of New Hampshire, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez of Washington State, Darren Soto of Florida, and Derek Tran of California. So just wanted to let you know. Congresswoman Sidney Clemenger Dove of California said, quote, the stock trader in chief made 21,000 stock trades in his first year back in office. 100% support the stock trading ban for members of Congress and the president and the VP to stop them. But the bill Republicans brought to the floor was really only about appeasing Trump. And even Chuck Schumer came out and said, we all know that Donald Trump wants to steal America's elections, plain and simple. We're looking at every way to prevent him from stealing the elections. He's desperate. Yeah, you think? So what's on your mind today? Deborah in Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, Deborah, what's up?
Yes, Tom, thanks for taking my call. I just thought any politician that comes in office, they have to swear in oath that they will not violate the Constitution.
That's correct.
Excuse me. When the president is sworn in, he has to, by the head person from the Supreme Court, and says, I will not violate the Constitution. Why would the Supreme Court give Donald Trump leeway to do just about anything? So what is the penalty for violating the Constitution? It doesn't matter. It's just a ceremonial proposition, or what? No one wants. They don't look at the Constitution. You can't violate that, and the Supreme Court doesn't do anything. Right. And they sworn him in, and those words are in there.
I agree with you, Deborah. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution says that that the police may not enter your home, and they may not arrest you unless a judge signs a warrant based on sworn testimony from somebody that a crime is being committed. We've got 68 or 70,000 people right now being held in detention, and maybe a few hundred of them had judge-signed warrants. The Trump administration is openly violating the Fourth Amendment. The Fifth through the Eighth Amendments concern your right to not incriminate yourself, your right to not. The Fifth Amendment says that you shall not lose your freedom, life, or property, and unless there is a legal action against you. The Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendments are all about having a trial by jury and not having cruel and unusual punishment and a speedy trial. And all of those are being violated by these people. Trump is violating the Constitution says that the president may not take gifts from foreign powers, period. Abraham Lincoln wanted to hang on to a couple of African elephant tusks that were given to him by one of the potentates of Africa back in the 1860s. Congress wouldn't let him. He had to put them into the National Museum instead. But Trump's got a $400 million Trojan horse bribe jet. You are absolutely right, and the reason why is because Mitch McConnell, basically screwed us. He refused to let Merrick Garland's nomination be considered when Obama was president, saying that, there's an election within a year. I think it was 400 days. And therefore, we should wait until after the election for the American people to speak on this. And so instead of Merrick Garland, we ended up with I think it was Brett Kavanaugh. And then, just 1 month before the election, when Trump was president in 2020, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, instead of saying, we should wait through the election, he jammed through Amy Coney Barrett. And now we've got a 6-3 radical, anti-Constitution Republican Supreme Court, rather than an old-fashioned 5-4, just, mainstream right-wing hate labor union Supreme Court. So, you identified it, and I think it's just such a blatant violation of the Constitution. We've got such a long road to travel now to get back to constitutional order that it's going to be a hell of a challenge. And I think it's going to take a decade to flush this stuff out. This poison that has been injected by the billionaires and by Russia and Putin and Trump and the whole crowd. So, did I answer your question?
That's such a dangerous trail to go down.
Yeah, it really is.
So
it truly is.
When the next group of senators, House of Representatives, and the president, it's just a ceremonial. You don't pay any attention because there won't be any penalties for violating the Constitution. That's
right, or the law. I mean, they're breaking the law all the time, and particularly like the Hatch Act is being broken constantly by these guys. Deborah, well said. Thank you very much for the call.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure enough. Michael in Antelope, California. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, a couple of days ago, you had talked about Clarence Thomas, and I think you were asking how he felt about his people. What was that?
Yeah, why is this guy who had the experience of growing up black in America consistently working against the interests of black people? And it's not just, trying to stop things that might be called reverse discrimination or whatever kind of BS title you want to put on things like affirmative action, but he's going even farther. I mean, he's actually supporting efforts to prevent black people from voting or prevent their votes from having, any effect. Why?
Well, there's this book, I don't know if you heard of it, called Capital Gains, and it was published in 1992, and I read it like 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. It talks about the Anita Hill inquiry or issue. And it talked about Clarence's beginnings. And I believe, I haven't read the book, in so long, but I believe he went to Boston College and then he went to Harvard Law School. Mm-hmm. And when he got to Harvard Law School, the book claimed that he tried to fit in. He tried to put on a dashiki, which was what we were doing in the 60s.
Yeah, he briefly joined the Black Panthers, if my recollection is correct.
Yeah, I don't remember if the books mentioned that. The thing was, he wasn't accepted by the other blacks in the school, in the class, even though he tried to. And I think I always wondered if that's what affected his attitude towards his towards his people.
That's
so
interesting.
I just wanted to put that out there that the book is out there. I don't know if it's still published or not.
Yeah.
There's one of the things that
I run before you move to another topic, Michael? Can I run something by you, an inquiry?
Sure.
One of the things that I think is kind of universal among human beings, and of course this comes out of my experience as a white guy in the business world and whatnot, is that you look at people who are successful and you want to be like them, and in many ways you kind of have to be like them. For example, when I owned a company and I was doing sales work, when I had an ad agency and I'd go out and call on other companies, I had to wear a tie, put on a sports coat, and I had to have a reasonable haircut.
Yeah.
You have to do things to look like successful people in order to be accepted by successful people. And I'm wondering if what drove him was his coming to the conclusion that basically to be successful in America, you either had to be white or you had to align yourself with white people in a way that is just so overt that the white power structure will accept you. Does that make any sense?
Well, it makes sense, but you may have to go further into what type of person Clarence Thomas is.
Yeah, I get it.
And it could be that, again, he tried to fit in, he didn't, and that his personality is a conservative, self-serving personality anyway, because of the issue he had with Anita Hill and how he treated her and other women.
Yeah.
That he is self-serving, and he's probably doing what it takes to be successful, and he has no empathy, I guess you would say.
Yeah, that certainly appears to be the case, and that's a sign of a sociopath, which is real unfortunate. You had one other thing you wanted to say. We're going to hit a break in just a second.
Yeah, the day after Trump was nominated or elected, November 6th, I was going to call you. I was going to call you, or I was listening to your show. And during one of your breaks, you were reading an excerpt from a book about how the Jews were planning on taking Palestine way back. So I want to talk to you about that next week.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And you may. You may want to look into that and see what the excerpt was.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Michael, thank you for the call. Okay. It's good talking with you, and I appreciate your helping fill me in. Helping me round out my experience here in life, or my understanding of everybody's experience. It's 46 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
47 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls, and stick around. And welcome back. Robert in Los Angeles. Hey, Robert, what's up? Robert, listening to KPFK in L.A. Going once, going twice. Robert in Springfield, Missouri. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today?
Oh, there you go. That's
got the right Robert, right?
Hey,
what's up?
Yeah. You got the right Robert now. Even though I lived my whole life in California, I'm in Missouri now. Mm-hmm. But I want to illustrate like 4 or 5 things. But I don't want to take up all your time. But you were such a good teacher with everything. It doesn't matter about climate, history, the Bible, politics. You're such a good teacher.
Thank you.
Let me go down this route. First off, if we get the blue wave, because I can tell you many things about the United States that I think is really good. If we get the blue wave, Jamie Raskin should be the whip. Because he's a scholar. He's a constitutional scholar.
I would love
scholar,
to see Jamie Raskin as the House Speaker.
That's what I'm trying to say. The whip, yeah.
The whip is the number 2 guy. The whip is the guy who supports the House Speaker. The whip is the one who runs around and basically it's called whipping votes. He goes around and talks people into voting for things.
I got 2 more. I'm gonna let me illustrate the second one. Is from 9 to 13 if we get the House because these people need to be impeached that are taking dark money. Our Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas, John Roberts, They're all taking dark money.
Yeah.
So, okay, now here's the third one. Now, of all your listeners that are Democratic, living in Republican states, and they got Republican friends, and they sit around and do this and that all day long, give them little tidbits of why your parents are getting Medicare and Social Security, and why we need to keep that going. You know
well, they're
what I mean?
getting it because of Democrats. Period.
Yeah.
Republicans have opposed every single one of those programs.
I got one more good one for you. If we change the whole atmosphere, we could have all kinds of jobs of children, not children, but whatever, youngsters going to community college and learning how to set up solar panels and put them on hills. And I mean, we could have a totally different environment. You know what I mean?
I think that Joe Biden's the Green New Deal that was proposed, the Bernie proposed, which was a multi-billion-dollar effort, and small pieces of it got put into law, although Trump has refused to fund them or is actively reversing them right now. But I think it would have been a massive revival, and in fact, it started to be. I mean, inflation was down to 2.5% when Biden left office. The economy was growing. We had more people employed than ever before. We were economically doing just great. It's just that the media never told you that, and Biden never told you that. But that green effort would have renewed America. I mean, it really would have. And it's such a shame that we got this idiot who just wants to throw everything for the fossil fuel companies because they gave him a lot of money. I mean, we've got a grifter now in the White House. Robert, thank you for the call. It's 51 minutes past the hour. I'll be back, or 9 minutes before the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in 60 seconds. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. I have 8 suggestions for Democrats for messaging. Democrats seem to have a messaging problem right now. First, Democrats must frame the fight in simple moral terms. Don't be wonky like, hey, we need to expand social safety net. No, say no child in America should go to bed hungry. Second, Democrats need to stop playing defense and instead seize the populist high ground, like when FDR said, they are unanimous in their hate for me and I welcome their hatred. Third, ruthlessly define the Republican opposition and the morbidly rich oligarchs who own them. Fourth, tell stories instead of facts. Reagan did this with the black welfare queen. He had to lie about it, but we've got lots of great stories. That's number 4. There's 4 more. And they're all over at HartmannReport.com. The title of the article is, If Obama Had Sent a Mob to Kill a Cop, Republicans Would Never Let You Forget It. And it's all about how Democrats can reinvent their messaging to start winning elections big. Check it out. 8 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Kenyatta in Los Angeles. Hey, Kenyatta, what's on your mind today?
Just anecdotally, and then I'll get to my points as rapidly as I can. You were talking to a gentleman earlier about Uncle Thomas.
Yes.
And the only parallel I would submit that there is a parallel, and that would be the recently demised Lindsey Graham, who tooth and nail voted against all legislation involving gay rights. So go figure it out.
Yeah,
now,
I get it.
The reason I called is last week I spoke with you, and it wasn't the substance of what I wanted to talk about. I just made an ancillary comment, and I received a lot of commentary from black people.
Well, we got one caller about it, but okay.
Well, no, I got some notes on Substack, and they were very respectful.
Yeah, and I see, by the way, you've been writing again on Substack, and it's just great. Thank you. Forgive the interruption.
That's okay. I just wanted to clear something up. because I don't want anyone to understand. I am a black nationalist. I am not, and I'm not shy about it. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican because that's a duopoly. That's the same side of one coin. And you look at a quarter, it's a bird on one side, an eagle, I believe, George Washington on the other. It's still 25 cents. So, 400 years of what black people in the United States from the inception have gone through cannot be encapsulated in 1 hour, 2 hours, 10 minutes, or 4 years. I want people to understand that the reason I do not use the term African American is because, first of all, Africa was called Alkebulan from the people that came from it, my ancestors. The European, the Greeks and Romans specifically, renamed Alkebulan Africa. So if I use that term, I'm sitting here a linguistic and cerebral slave because I've got the iron collar around my neck of what the white man told me to call myself, just like Leroy Jackson. You want to find out where black people are in the old days when there were phone books? Go look up Johnson, Jackson, Adamson, Robertson, all of which are Anglo-Christian first white names, Robert, Adam, Tom, so forth and so on. And if you were black and male, you were a boy. So if you were so-and-so's slave, you were called Tom's son. You were called Jack's son. Yeah. So, if these people want to signify that they are somehow liberated, proud African Americans, they need to first study, because using the term alone shows that you're not independent. It shows that you are a mental slave. You don't see white people calling themselves European Americans, which is what I call them, and they look at me like I have 5 heads. My parents' birth certificate said colored. My birth certificate said Negro. My children's birth certificate says black. Then there's always the other default word. What European has adopted the name Leta Umbulu or Solo Masakela? Tell me. There are 53 countries in Africa. The average so-called African American cannot name 10 of them. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I am a black man in the United States, and that reminds me that I am the only person here, ancestrally, in prison, forced to come. I wasn't a dreamer. I didn't come to Ellis Island and look at the Statue of Liberty with a tear going down my face and open up Pizza Hut.
I get it.
The mere fact that the debate exists at all, sit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I get it, Kenyatta. It's always good to hear from you. Thank you so much for the call. Yeah. So Phil Ittner's going to drop by live from Kyiv, Ukraine, and let us know what's going on over there right on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar. Plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and has squeaked through 216 to 212. 7 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, a costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem, that's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. Now, here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly a third of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The foreign maligned office center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history, and now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the Bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, this is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do. And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
My daily writings, where I take on the big picture issues of our day at hartmanreport.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the second hour of our program. On the line with us is our buddy Phil Ittner, the veteran war correspondent, host of the On the Edge podcast based out of Kyiv, Ukraine. Philip Ittner on YouTube, Ittner Philip on social media. Phil, welcome back to the program. How's everything in Ukraine today?
Well, relatively good in terms of the way, you know, at least we're not getting pummeled by ballistic missiles, but it's politically rather chaotic at the moment, I should say.
To what extent is that, a real conflict between these, your defense minister and Zelensky and whatnot, versus something that's being driven by Russian propaganda? Or is Russian propaganda no longer a big factor in Ukrainian politics?
Well, this gets really, really complicated and very intricate, as one could, well imagine, given the inner workings of a government at war.
Sure.
It all stemmed from the fact that there was this tension between the head of the army, General Syrski, and the head of the Ministry of Defense, Fedorov. And this came to a head last week, and in it, Zelensky abruptly dismissed Fedorov. And it's widely known that it was going to be one or the other. People took to the streets. They exercised their freedom of assembly and their freedom of speech. Given the way things are politically here and that we live under martial law, that's the best way for them to get their opinion out there into the world. Zelensky listened. He made some revisions. He's brought in a younger, different man, Mikhailo Drapatya, to now be the head of the army. The Ministry of Defense, I think, still is an open position. And people have been clamoring for Fedorov to come back. He's a widely respected, kind of seen as a young innovator.
He's the guy who ran the drone program, right?
He's the one that ran the drone program, and reportedly, Zelensky offered him this kind of obscure, made-up position of prime minister in charge of technological innovation or something like that. And Fedorov said, that holds no real power. I'm not interested. I'll come back if I come back as defense minister. That is what is being reported. Now, you ask about Russian propaganda. This isn't Russian propaganda. This is an inner struggle within the Ukrainian armed forces and how to move forward, dealing with mobilization, dealing with soldiers, dealing with technological innovation, new tactics, breaking from the Soviet past of the Soviet way of war, which was the accusation made against General Syrski, although General Syrski had gotten some really good victories under his belt, and there's a faction within Ukraine that still actually would like to see him reinstated. However, I must say that while this might not be Russian propaganda, I think there is Russian interference happening here. And I say that because we knew months ago, we were told by various members of the political elite here within Ukraine that they were seeing machinations done by Moscow to interfere and to drive divisions between the leading members of the political elite, the kind of, the party leaders and those who are in high positions, especially regarding security or military, divide and conquer. It's what the Russians do all the time. Yeah. And we know that there are Russian operatives in Ukraine. Of course there are Russian operatives in Ukraine. But this may be that we're seeing play out. However, one way or the other, whether it's machinations by Moscow or whether or not it's street protests by Ukrainian people, we are at a political crisis here, and it's happening at a time of war when there's a lot going on the battlefield, and these inner struggles, while essential and legitimate, are stymieing Ukrainian unity, although that is not going away. Nobody is protesting Zelensky. They are protesting the decision that Zelensky has made. Right. People here just want to see this war prosecuted properly, and they want to win, and they have differing opinions on how to do that and who should be in charge in the effort of doing that.
So I have heard that, from the reporting in the media, that over the last couple of weeks, Kyiv has been just under massive bombardment from Russia. How are you guys doing, and does this compare? I mean, it's apparently nothing close to, like World War II bombing, the Blitz and whatnot that would just take out, 20 city blocks kind of thing. But how's it going?
It's not good. They've been since July 2nd. There's rarely a night where we don't have active, attacks, and certainly alarms. I would say almost, in fact, I'll correct myself. Every night we get alarms, but pretty much every night since that July 2nd beginning of this bombardment, we've had some sort of explosion, whether or not that's air defenses or whether or not that's an actual ballistic missile strike. And a lot of this is on our shoulders because the Trump administration has choked off the supply of Patriot missile systems, which are essential for shooting down ballistic missiles. The Ukrainians can shoot down the drones themselves. They have that capacity themselves. They can shoot down an awful lot of missiles. They have that capacity themselves. But some of these like hypersonic ballistic missiles and some of the more, extreme weapons that Russia has in its arsenal can only be handled by Patriots. And they've clearly run out because we are getting pelted, absolutely pelted. And you're right, it isn't blowing down blocks, city blocks. It's not like the Blitz. It's not the Luftwaffe. But it's bad enough that, it takes a toll on you psychologically. I have not had a good night's sleep, Tom, since July 2nd. Wow. Because even when it doesn't happen, there's still the alarm, and you wonder, do I need to go to a safe place in my building? Do I need to go actually to a shelter? And that psychological toll is absolutely taking an extreme, it's taking a toll.
You wonder if that might be driving some of the demonstrations. People are just frazzled.
Yes, frazzled, short-tempered. Yeah. All of these things are coming into play. And I did about 2 weeks ago, I did an interview on the show, and I recommend everybody go and talk to it with a woman named Lisa Woods, who's an American working at a trauma center here in Ukraine, psychological trauma, where they're trying out new techniques like microdosing and things like that. And I spoke to her specifically about this, is that it's not just the actual attack that does damage to a person's, mental
psyche,
health. Yeah, their psyche. And what it's doing to the children who are going to grow up. And, it may not manifest for a decade. It may not manifest until they're well into their elderly lives. But this is doing serious psychological damage to the people of Ukraine. Whether or not it's an actual strike that happens, it's exhausting. I will tell you that. I will from personal experience. Yeah. It's exhausting. But again, I reiterate, it's similar to what I said about the political situation where nobody is attacking Zelensky. They just want this done right. What I am saying is that people are exhausted, but they remain resilient because they have to be, because they know what Moscow is like. They know what it's like to live under the thumb of the Kremlin, and they refuse to ever do it again. And there is no question in anybody's mind this country remains overwhelmingly unified in trying to push back the invader. What that's going to look like, I don't know. We just had the meeting I guess it was in the Philippines between Lavrov and Rubio. There should have been a Ukrainian representative there, in my opinion, but apparently there wasn't. So, there is a desire for this war to end. Everybody wants this war to end. We're all so tired of this war, but it has to win. It has to end with a sovereign and free Ukraine.
I get it.
And that's universal.
Yeah, I totally get it. About every 2 weeks since Trump became president, he has an hour or 2 hour long phone conversation with Putin. Sergei Lavrov, who I've met, who is basically the Secretary of State, the foreign minister.
I've met him too. That must have been. You got to tell me that story sometime.
He's
a character.
It was at a reception in Washington D.C., basically a cocktail party. But in any case,
tough dude.
Yeah, he's a giant of a man, and he's a very smart man. But anyhow, he's meeting with Rubio in private. Now we learn that the FBI director, Kash Patel, is going to go to Moscow in October, just before our elections. For a year and a half now, Trump has refused to provide Ukraine with the anti-missile technology necessary to stop these attacks on Kyiv. Do you see these all as part of one thing, or do you think that, there's speculation here that perhaps the reason why Kash Patel is going over to Moscow is for election interference, because Moscow has been messing in our elections in a big way since 2016. What's your opinion, and what's the prevailing opinion there? I got about a minute and a half here before we hit our break.
So my take on this is mighty fishy in a lot of different ways, okay? So this has only happened very rarely in the past. Director Free, I think, went, and I think Mueller went. But those trips were planned well in advance. They were meticulous. Everybody knew what everybody was talking about. The schedule and the time frame were done down to the minutia, the minute. This Kash Patel thing is flying by the seat of the pants. He's being hosted by the FSB, who has actively attacked us in our own elections in the past, in 2016 certainly, and in 2020. This stinks. This smells fishy to me. And that comes not only from having worked and studied the Russians for 30 years, but also having worked in the defense and security coverage for, CBS and 60 Minutes and take your pick. I've seen these kind of trips before, and it doesn't go like this. It isn't fly by the seat of your pants. You aren't hosted by the enemy, and Russia is our enemy. I'm sorry to have to put it that bluntly, but it's true. And they're hosting Kash Patel. This is on their dime. This is their schedule. That's highly unusual. Yeah. And it makes me very nervous, Tom. It makes me very, very nervous.
Yeah, well, me too, Phil. And I think, there are Democrats now who are demanding to know what the hell is going on here.
And they should.
Yeah, and does this have to do with Ukraine? Or does this have to do with the elections, or what's going on here? And I didn't even know that Lavrov had met Rubio in the Philippines. I mean, that's news to me. And I'm pretty hell of a lot of meeting.
I know you are, but we got to keep an eye on this. And the American people should know exactly why Kash Patel is going and what they're doing and who they're meeting with and what they're talking about. We should demand it.
Amen. Phil Ittner, the great Phil Ittner. Check out his podcast, On the Edge. Philip Ittner on YouTube, Ittner Philip on social media. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Tom.
Good talking to you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So why are we bombing Iran and saying that we're doing it to get rid of nuclear weapons while Trump is wanting to give nuclear weapons to Saudi Arabia? What the hell's going on here? We'll talk about that in just a minute. And welcome back. Tony in Buffalo, New York. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind today?
Yep. One thing that you should know is your discussion about Clarence Thomas. You know that he was in charge of the EEO?
Right.
In fact, I saw 2 of his commercials.
Yeah, the Equal Opportunity Commission. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in charge of it. He was the commissioner.
I know, under Reagan.
Do you realize that his wife, Jenny, is a white woman who was put into the Trump administration? You asked why he would do these things. The man said, why is he disparaging the blacks? Well, because he has to be white.
Yeah.
His wife goes to all these movies.
Yeah.
Now, I called and told you about James Smith, who's being persecuted by Grassley and Jordan and the Department of Corruption.
Yeah.
Both of the things they put out at 9 o'clock last night. Now, mind you, this is 9 o'clock at night. I got to stay up to hear the charges, stating that he was unauthorized to take and get the phone, not a phone record, but a phone position
the metadata
on the people that were plotting the January 1st
6th,
of the Congress.
Yeah.
Also, the second thing, any text messages that he used in his work to prosecute the case came from the National Archives. You don't need a subpoena to go to the National Archives.
Josh Hawley completely misrepresented what he said and what he was questioned about. And this is clearly another witch hunt. This is like, let's go after Jim Comey for, seashells on the beach. This is Trump weaponizing, and the Republicans, by the way, going along with it, which is despicable.
Well, Tom, you realize all these indictments or so-called subpoenas are done. Oh, do you know who James Jordan is?
Jim Jordan, you're talking about, the guy who was covering up sexual abuse at the University of Ohio when he was in the wrestling team?
Yeah, he was the wrestling coach.
Yeah.
One of the wrestling coaches. And he was accused of sexual exploitation of young men.
No, he wasn't accused of it. He was accused of knowing about it and refusing to do anything about it.
Right. And what about the subpoena for the January that we had? He refused to comply with the subpoena.
Yeah.
Garland made a huge mistake. He should have put the guy in jail.
I agree.
Garland screwed it up.
Merrick Garland, for the first 2 years that he was the Attorney General, was Casper Milquetoast. I mean, he was handling everything with such delicacy, and I respect his integrity and his position that the Justice Department cannot be politicized and cannot appear to be politicized, and so we've got to be very careful. But we had just been, for the 4 years of the Trump administration, our Constitution had been under assault, our form of government had been under assault, our democracy had been under assault, and our economy was being, ripped apart and exploited. And Garland, it took him 2 years to figure that out and decide that Trump was, in fact, a criminal, and it was time to prosecute him. And it's a tragedy that it took that long. Tony, I'm with you. Thank you for the call. 22 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in just a minute. Stick around. Tired of spin and billionaire-backed news? The Commonwealth Report delivers truth with backbone. News for the public, not the powerful. Twice daily, no fluff, no fear. Go to commonwealthreport.news and subscribe now. Democracy belongs to you. 23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So this story is getting really weirder by the hour. Saudi Arabia gives Donald Trump's family $2 billion, through Jared Kushner. That was back years ago. Now they're cutting deals with Don Jr. and Eric, Uday and Qusay, to build a Trump Tower in Riyadh, I believe it is, and a Trump golf course. while Trump was out of office, they gave Trump millions and millions of dollars to sponsor the so-called Live Golf Tour. So here we have literally billions of dollars flowing from Saudi Arabia into the Trump family. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has wanted for a long, long time to become a major player. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Pakistan has a nuclear weapon. Saudi Arabia wants to have a nuclear weapon. And, and Iran continues to deny that they've ever tried to get a nuclear weapon, although their activities kind of belie that statement. We are bombing Iran under the excuse, the rubric, that we're doing this to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. In fact, Trump yesterday did something that was so despicable, or day before yesterday. Can you imagine if Barack Obama or Joe Biden had said after a soldier had died that they died because they supported my policy? That they said that they supported my policy, and it's so tragic that they died because, they said that they supported my policy. Trump said that about the 4 soldiers, U.S. soldiers who just died in the Middle East. He said that they told him, or they said that they did not want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. This is a lie. Soldiers don't talk in terms of geopolitics and things. They're in terms of, what did my commanding officer say this week? And we've seen several generals on television basically saying that. So here you've got Trump bombing Iran, saying that he's doing it to stop a nuclear program that does not exist. It has been, to use Trump's own word, obliterated. Really, he's bombing Iran because Netanyahu, had been for 15 years trying to find an American president stupid enough to go along with him, and he finally found one. And at the same time, we're bombing Iran to stop the nuclear program. He has Chris Wright, his energy secretary, sign a deal with the guy who murdered the Washington Post reporter and sawed up his body and disposed of it in a vat of acid. That guy. We just signed a deal with them saying, yeah, we'll help you enrich enrich uranium to the point where it could be made into a nuclear bomb. Now, when this story came out yesterday, there was a lot of blowback. And so now Trump is backing away. You say, well, only if you join the Abraham Accords, which doesn't mean a whole lot. It's just, yes, okay, kumbaya, we're fine with Israel. Keep an eye on this story. This is a story, I'm telling you, this is a story of graft and corruption, and the President of the United States, the presidency of the United States being bought by a bloodthirsty, sociopathic foreign dictator for the purposes of coming to dominate. Saudi Arabia wants to be the dominant Arab force in the Middle East, or arguably in the world, and they think that it's going to take a nuclear weapon to get there.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And I've got a heartwarming story for you about little old ladies and ponds. Stick around. Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar, plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and it's squeaked through 216 to 212. 7 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, A costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem. That's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. Now, here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly a third of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The foreign maligned office center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history. And now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, this is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do. And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Get my daily writings where I take on the big picture issues of our day at hartmannreport.com. Don't let billionaires shape your understanding of the world. The Hartmann Report brings you powerful, independent insight, free, clear, direct, and uncompromising. Go to hartmannreport.com now and get the facts you deserve. Welcome back, 34 minutes past the hour. So, a heartwarming story. They call themselves the Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. This is just incredible. This woman who is currently 86 years old started a few years ago. She lives near Cape Cod, and she's a scuba diver in her 80s. And she discovered that there's these ponds all over Cape Cod, as is commonly the case with kind of coastal land masses. And she started digging. She's 86 now. Susan Bauer is her name, and she was diving in these ponds and discovering all kinds of crap on the bottom. And she started bringing it up. And other women joined her. The youngest is 65. The oldest is 86. And over the past 6 years, they estimate they removed at least 3 tons, 6,000 pounds of trash from ponds around the Cape. During a recent dive covered by the New York Times, this is on the front page of the New York Times over the weekend, they pulled 1,000 pounds of trash from one particular pond, Lovell's Pond. And one of the members, this is Lisa Weiss, she said, "You're exhausted, maybe you're a little sunburned, you're filthy, and it's the best feeling. I don't quilt, I don't crochet, that's not how I'm going to stay fit as I age. This feeds you in a different way." So, yeah, put on the wetsuit and strap on the tank. God bless him. I love it. What's on your mind today? Nancy in Springfield, Oregon. Hey, Nancy, what's up?
Yes. On the SAVE Act, I have been wondering if maybe it wouldn't hurt the Republicans more than the Democrats, because the people in the blue areas, the women in the blue areas, they're not as likely to change their name when they get married. And also, they're more likely to travel and have a passport and see the world. And the red people in red states kind of sit home and, I don't know, do what they do. So just wondering about that.
Well, that's exactly why many of the Republicans in the United States Senate are refusing to go along with this, because they're concerned that it's going to harm the Republican Party. They have 2 concerns. One is the one that you just described, and the other is that it's going to so piss off Democrats that it's going to explode Democratic votership, while it doesn't give anything to Republicans, so it doesn't encourage Republicans to vote. So they see, a double whammy. They see it hurting Republican chances this fall in 2 different ways. And
why are they pushing it so much?
Well, because Trump is convinced that this is the solution. And, what Donald Trump wants, Donald Trump gets. It's been that way his whole entire life since he was 5 years old and started throwing tantrums and mashed potatoes at the dinner table. And, finally was so uncontrollable that his mother sent him off to military school. He always gets what he wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, then he burns people down. He destroys them. He tries to put them in jail. He tries to break them financially. He tries to get them killed. He has, in my opinion, gotten several people killed. They're afraid of him. They're just, they're terrified of him. So.
And another thing, I came across this idea, and I don't know what other people think of it, but, all the stuff that he's doing in D.C., putting his name on everything. And what it reminds me of is a male dog going around marking his territory.
Peeing on the fire hydrants. Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, anyway. Nancy. Yep, there you go. Somehow the image of Trump peeing on a fire hydrant does not work in my brain, but I get it. Nancy, thank you very much. Good talking to you. Appreciate the call. Thank you. Vernon in Washington, D.C. Hey, Vernon, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Great show today.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, and I just wanted to talk about your good friend Joe Madison. I was an avid listener of his, Black Eagle.
Yeah, Joe was he was one of the most, honestly, of all the people I've known in my whole entire life, Joe Madison was one of the most decent. He was brilliant and thoughtful and all that kind of stuff, but just at the level of being a human being, just one of the most decent people that I've ever known in my life.
Yes,
I miss him.
And Kenyatta seems to almost be in that same vein.
Yeah, Kenyatta's a good man.
Well, I want to talk about the Clarence Thomas. You guys were talking about him and how he aspires to, his power and what, his aspiration of, his white power and things of that nature. I can kind of see where he's coming from, to be quite honest with you, playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
I'm African American, and I aspire to, different things, and I've sometimes have been rejected by the black community myself, for my opinion. Matter of fact, 2 years ago, I was at an African American barbershop in my neighborhood. I used to frequent many. I don't go there anymore. I got thrown out because I was advocating voting in the shop. And man, they was like coming at me, talking, well, I'm not voting. What we voting? It don't count. And as I was trying to explain to them, and I'm talking about African American men from ages 21 to 70.
Boy, Joe would have taken them apart.
Oh, yeah, I know he would have. And they were telling me, oh, get out of here with that radical nonsense. We don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Man, they threw me out of my own barber shop.
That's sad.
So I understand. Now, I've had bosses over the years, and most of my bosses, I got to be honest, have been white. Okay? And I've had black bosses, but my white bosses are distinctly more, how should I say, they know how to wield power in a certain way. And it is amazing to watch, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And I understand a lot of it has to do with privilege.
Yeah,
but,
And generations of people in their families having done the same thing.
Correct. But I had this gentleman who was my boss, Morgan. He was a Jewish guy, lovely guy. One of my best bosses, lovely personality. But when he got behind that desk, this man was a total boss. And I have to admit, I admire it. I've never seen anybody. I've seen white guys wield this kind of power before. I've never seen black guys do it. I got to be honest.
Yeah. There's an old saying in business that management is the art of getting things done through other people.
Yes.
And there's different ways to do that. You can make people fear you. You can make people love you so much that they will do it because they're loyal to you. You can make people do things because they're convinced that it's in their best interest, ultimately, because, if the company does well, they'll do well. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to get things done through other people. I always thought of it as very unfortunate. I had some bad bosses when I was a teenager. When I was 14, I worked at a Henry's hamburger stand, and I just swore I was never going to be anybody's employee after that, and I pretty much haven't been.
Right.
But this idea that being a boss means that you're a king, which is how Donald Trump views the world, and it's clearly how he's always run his business, is, in my mind, a pathology. It's a sickness. It's an illness within our business culture that now Donald Trump has brought to our entire political culture. So
I agree, but this is what I've seen over my career. How white men wield power. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an advocate for Clarence Thomas at all.
Yeah.
At all. It's just that I understand, and I got to be honest with you. When I aspire in leadership roles, I have to lean towards examples of the white men I've seen who are leaders.
Yeah.
Who I in my life, because
there have been some great black leaders. I mean, look at Martin Luther King and what he accomplished.
They are.
Malcolm X, what he accomplished.
Very much so.
And they didn't use fear. They didn't use that cheap. That's cheap stuff. Threatening people.
Well, I don't think you have to use fear to be a good leader, to be quite honest.
Exactly. That's my point.
I think yes. I mean, compassion is definitely one of the things. Empathy is included in that,
and shared self-interest.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you also have to be decisive.
Yeah, that's true.
And committed.
Yep.
So those are things I see in leadership. So, like I said, I don't aspire to, I'm not on Clarence Thomas's side or anything like that, but I can understand him being rejected by African Americans, and I can understand how he might have said, he got in his feelings and wanted to, go to the other side.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to the other side. I understand how African Americans can be. We're not a monolith, Tom.
Yeah, no, I get it, Vernon.
We're not a monolith.
Vern, I got to move along. I think we've kind of talked this out, but it's been a fascinating conversation. I appreciate your calling in.
You have a great day, Tom.
Okay, thank you. You too, Vernon. Susan in Hood River, Oregon. Hey, Susan, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. A few months back, a friend of mine retired, and she made an appointment at a local adult center to meet with a Sheba. Do you know what a Sheba is?
I don't.
it stands for Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance. And you can usually find them at your local adult center.
Okay.
And she went in there to help her decide what she was going to sign up for as far as Medicare was concerned. And she came out and told me that this woman pushed her as hard as she could into Medicare disadvantage. That's what I call it.
I'll bet she's getting a commission.
Yes. Well, I wondered about that. I don't know, but she certainly is being encouraged to tell people to do that. So what I did was I just recently sent in an application to become a Sheba.
Oh, good.
And yes, I'm a social worker. I've been helping people my whole career, and I feel like this is something. It may be a drop in the bucket, but there are a lot of us out there that are retired that have time on our hands, and it's not a difficult process. And if we all, most of our states have these Shebas, and if a lot of us signed up to be Shebas and help people and told them the truth, it might help just a little bit people to sign up for the right thing.
Yeah, I get it. I was talking to an old friend that I literally hadn't talked to this guy in 15, 20 years, and he reached out and we hooked up on a Zoom call a couple days ago. And he's working now in a senior center, and he's helping people in ways like that. And it's such a useful thing for people who are retired, or even not.
Right.
But in particular, if you got a little time on your hands, that's marvelous. Good on you, Susan.
Yep.
Thanks for telling us about it.
Spread the word.
Okay, you got it.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, done. I very much appreciate that. So, thank you. It's almost 46 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann program, the place where smart people get their news. We'll be right back with more of your calls in just a second. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with you, folks. And welcome back. Igor in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Igor, what's on your mind today?
Well, I have a question, Tom. Since Trump is considering Antifa a terrorist organization, would FDR, Dwight Eisenhower, and the troops that landed on Omaha Beach, June 6, 44, would they be considered terrorists?
Under these definitions, yeah. I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to change the meaning of anti-fascist into communist or terrorist or something, because so many Americans have said that they feel that what is happening with the Trump administration and frankly with the GOP is that they're moving toward fascism or fully into it, and they oppose that. We oppose fascism, and we want small d democracy in our small r republic, and the Trump administration is trying to reinvent that. Trump is the one thing that Donald Trump is good at is branding, and he's done it with businesses throughout his life. He did it with immigrants. That was branding immigrants as rapists and murderers in 2015. He did it with trans people in 2024. He's doing it now with Democrats and Democratic Socialists and Antifa, absolutely, or Antifa. Yeah, I get it, Igor. I agree.
Well, the reason why I asked is I'm designing a T-shirt that would have the face of FDR, Dwight Eisenhower, and in the middle, between the two faces of the former presidents, I'd have the picture of a veteran landing on Omaha Beach, dragging the body of a fellow wounded soldier, and refer to them as Antifa.
The original Antifa, yeah.
Yeah, the original Antifa.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if it'd be an educational.
I think it's a great idea, Igor. I hope you do it. If you do, let me know where I can buy one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Igor. Frank in Los Angeles. Hey, Frank. What's on your mind today?
Well, how's DXOM?
I beg your pardon?
How is DX?
Oh, DX sucks right now. I'm getting RF from my solar array, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about it. If you're a ham radio operator, and that's why you're asking, unless there's some other DX I don't know about. For people who aren't hams, DX is long distance communication on ham radio.
That straightens that out. Well, anyways, I've heard three people now talk about the possibility of Nuremberg-like trials for the Trump administration.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea?
I think it's an excellent suggestion. I think, in fact, the big debate that we will have to have in 2.5 years when there's a new administration, and hopefully a Democratic one, will be, do we do a Nuremberg-style trial and hold these people accountable, or do we do a South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission and hold them to account but not punish them? And I think there's going to be a big debate around that issue.
Yeah, I hope so. Three men suggested it now. The first guy was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
I heard him say that.
Yep.
Well, anyway, I got many questions. I'll call you back next week.
Sounds like a plan, Frank. Thanks for the call. Good hearing from you. It's 10 minutes before the hour. We'll be back with you in just a second. Stick around. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. You know, they wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted to change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still moving forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, their ultimate talking document, does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the 1st, 4th, 9th, and 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out. Welcome back. 8 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Charles in Miami. Hey, Charles, what's up? Charles, you are on the air.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, Charles?
Hey, first of all, I wanted to tell you yesterday was one of the first calls that I heard that made me cry on your show. You had the guy that called that, I think he had MS, and he was talking to you on the computer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, wasn't that amazing?
Oh, man, listen. When that call came in, I cried like a baby. I'm at work, and it was only only one person that saw me, but
yeah,
it brought me to tears because I felt like one of two things. First of all, when Jesus Christ came, he didn't come for everybody that was doing well, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
He came for people that needed, that was in need.
That's correct.
And I feel like that's what this show is, for people that's in need. And the second part of it was, I felt like we are in deep doo-doo. Mm. If it takes someone like that to call in, to finally get a chance to call in, you can just imagine how terrified he is of what's going on and how he needs us to really step up.
Yeah, there's a guy with ALS who's afraid that Trump is going to cut off his access to life-saving
Medicare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the reason why I called in today, though, I had to call you, because last night I was watching MSNBC and somebody showed a clip of Bill O'Reilly saying that Trump needed to take a month off and regroup because of this Iran thing. And I'm like, what? I mean, if my blood pressure probably blew through the roof at that point, because I felt like, just the audacity, the privileges that these people take. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because for 4 years they have been complaining about Joe Biden. They never gave him that type of deference. They never gave him that type of leeway where they say take a month. No. And to me, that is what the Republican Party is all about. These people are whiners. These people are professional. They cry about everything because they're not in power. I'm looking at Kemi Badenoch today on the BBC News. The same thing. They professionally cry about what they want to change, how they can make it better. Just like, and I thought of FDR. How FDR said, leave it, when they tell you, leave it up to them because they can make it better. Yeah. They can make it easier. Leave it all up to us. Yeah. And you're telling me that Pete Hegseth is on the Hill, or I'm not sure if he was on the Hill or in the House, begging for how many billions of dollars that they've squandered already. Okay, that they have more billions that just sitting there for who knows what. Right. And they want more money, and they basically brought us into a war that's going to be that I don't see an end to. All I see is, I guess, whatever respect he says that we have around the world, we don't have that anymore.
And it's draining our munitions, Charles. They are draining our munitions, which is exactly what Putin and Xi want. And Putin is providing Iran with targeting information. There was an article this morning in, I believe it was the Financial Times, about how the senior analysts now are suggesting that the only way that Iran has started bombing CIA facilities, that facility in Jordan is apparently associated with the CIA as well. They've started bombing CIA facilities that are secret. And apparently the only way that Iran could have known with that kind of pinpoint accuracy how to take out a CIA facility is if Russia told them. And so here you've got now Russia, having hour-long phone conversations with Trump every 2 weeks, the Secretary of State meeting with the Russian foreign minister in the Philippines in secret, and we've got now the director of the FBI going to Russia, to get instructions? I mean, this is nuts, Charles. It's just friggin' nuts.
This sounds like the last throes of an empire. And to be honest with you, a guy, the caller before me, he took it right out of my mouth as well. And I'm gonna leave you with this: if we don't have some type, and it don't need to be a truth and commission. It has to be a Nuremberg type because people have to be prosecuted. The only way that America will ever return back to is
well, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission,
world power.
Yeah, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they had to confess. They had to acknowledge their crimes before they could be forgiven. But which is basically, I mean, that's kind of theological even. But yeah, I get it. Charles, thank you. That was great. Yeah. Always great hearing from you. Appreciate the call. On the other side of the break, Victoria Jones is going to drop by. Great Britain has a new prime minister, and I have not even mentioned that on this program in the last couple of days, and because I was waiting for Victoria to become available, because I want to get her take on this thing. She grew up there. Let's find out what she has to say about Andy Burnham. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar, plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and has squeaked through 216 to 212. 7 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, a costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem, that's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. Now, here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly 1/3 of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The Foreign Maligned Office Center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history, and now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the Bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, "This is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do." And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Get my daily writings where I take on the big picture issues of our day at hartmanreport.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the third hour of our program. On the line with us is our old friend, Victoria Jones, or I should say, not old, our friend for many years, Victoria Jones, the chief Washington analyst with the D.C. radio company. And Victoria, it is always so nice to talk to you. I've been watching Andy Burnham become the prime minister of Great Britain, and Count Binface, do I have that right? And all the weird stuff that's going on in the politics in the country that was once your home. I realize you're an American citizen now, but tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, but I do have to say, I supported England in the World Cup. So we just have to understand that certain things, certain priorities. Well, what's going on? Well, there's a certain amount of chaos, but they do think that the 7th prime minister in 5 minutes is going to be the one. That's Andy Burnham. He was the mayor of Manchester, which is the 2nd largest city in the UK. It's in the north. I'm from Liverpool, which is also in the north. It's a port. And Andy Burnham has been called the King of the North, or as you would say, the King of the North, because it's a northern thing, and obviously it's a reference to Game of Thrones. He is actually a really interesting guy. He's got some very good ideas. Whether he can carry any of them out, I don't know. One thing he has done that has never been done before is that he's got number 10 Downing Street, but he's also got number 10 in the north, in Manchester. And it really is a real building that is being developed, and he is going to force some of his cabinet members, because they don't want to, I know that for a fact, to work out of there. He's going to work there at least one day a week. And his idea is that, really devolving the work between the South and the North is going to help get things done for the North. Because a big issue in the UK is the North versus the South. And a reality is that the South always gets the perks. And the North. It's
kind of the opposite of here, where the South is poor, the North is industrialized and wealthy, and it's the reverse in the United Kingdom, right?
Exactly. It's the exact opposite. And so he's going to try and do something about it. Whether he can or not, I don't know. But he's going to try. And that's, I think, going to make him popular in a lot of areas in the North. And that's important for the Labour Party because recently voters in what used to be Labour strongholds, so that's left-leaning strongholds, have been voting far right. So they would hope to bring them back.
Interesting. And they've been voting far right around the issue of immigration, haven't they? Mostly brown people coming to the UK?
Yeah, that's been a big part of it. Brown people coming to the UK and they think taking their jobs.
Right.
They didn't seem to think it was quite as big of an issue when all the people coming to the UK were from Eastern Europe and were supposedly also taking their jobs.
Yeah, the white people.
Now it is exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I understand also that Larry the cat. I mean, talking to Victoria Jones without talking about cats is, it's like, having a sandwich without bread. I mean. And in fact, you sent us some video, a photo montage of the presentation of a mouse.
Yeah. Larry the cat is 19 years old now. He is the chief mouser of number 10. That is his job. I mean, he was originally got in 2011 from the Battersea Dog and Cats Home, which is the official homeless shelter for dogs and cats, to be a pet. But he soon showed that he was great at catching rats and mice and God knows what else. So he became a mouser, and he is a member of the cabinet. So he has protection. He can't be fired. And the day of Andy Burnham's coming in, there is Larry right in front of number 10 with a dead mouse. He just caught it, and he's sitting proud. And there's a row of photographers all taking pictures, and he's kind of like he's saying, "Look, I'm Larry. I've been here 15 years. I'm a member of the cabinet. I do my job. I catch mice. What are you all doing?"
I love it. So the bottom line here is that Great Britain has a new prime minister who is, in using American terms, essentially a progressive. Is that accurate?
Yes, he is a progressive, definitely.
Yeah, and because of Brexit, I think there's a broad consensus that because of Brexit, the economy of the UK has been harmed. We now know that, in fact, a lot of Russian propaganda was promoting Brexit. And because, I guess because of Brexit, please correct me if I'm wrong, the UK is more financially isolated than it was when it was part of the European Union. So it's a little more difficult for prime ministers to basically get anything done without, raising taxes and creating a ruckus. And how is Andy Burnham? First of all, comment on if I was wrong on any of that stuff.
No,
I don't
think so. I think it's going to be quite difficult, and particularly, I was looking at a sort of a summary of what he plans to do. And first of all, to the EU, he has said that he would like the UK to rejoin the EU in his lifetime, which is very vague. But a number of ministers in the EU have sort of said, well, we're not so sure that we want you back. So that's not as easy as it sounds. Right. He has a lot of very interesting policies. He wants to strongly address what's called in the UK rough housing, which is homelessness. He wants a lot of public housing built, a lot of other things, but there isn't any money for these things. So I don't know how he's going to get done the things he wants to get done without getting more money, and it's not clear where that's going to come from.
Can his government run a deficit the way we do? I mean, we've got a deficit right now of $35 trillion. If we hadn't had tax cuts from Reagan, Bush, and Trump, we would have a deficit of only around $1 trillion, which means that we could spend a small fortune, putting everybody through college and giving everybody health care and all that kind of thing. If we decided to deficit spend, is that prohibited in the UK or just frowned on?
It's not quite the same system, so you can't just go around like running up debts. It's not like that. So
but the Treasury does issue what are called gilts, don't they? They do issue debt.
Yes. But I mean, we over there is just not as it's just not as easy to just say, okay, well, let's just do this, and add to the deficit.
Right.
It's just not something, and certainly the voters would not stand for that.
Yeah, because here Trump is adding about $1 trillion to our deficit about every 7 months. So, I mean, it's pretty breathtaking.
Speaking of which, Andy Burnham spoke with Trump and issued an invitation to him to come to Manchester because he thinks it's wonderful. And so if it does happen, it might happen in 2027 when the G20 is thought to be taking place in Manchester.
Oh, interesting. So that's just next year.
Yeah.
It's just next year. And tell me about Lord Binface, or Count Binface.
Count Binface, yes, is a count. Well, Nigel Farage, the reform leader, who they are the extreme far-right party, as you know, and Nigel Farage, for some time, actually looked like he could become prime minister. He is a member of parliament. He was gaining a lot of support. And because some of his anti-immigrant and other policies sounded very attractive to some people, he's been caught in financial schemes, taking a £5 million gift from a crypto billionaire, for example, which was exposed, and various other things that he just hasn't been able to explain. So he's been getting into a lot of trouble, and people don't like that, obviously. So he's in a situation where he's got a by-election now coming up on August the 15th, and there isn't anybody standing against him. Nobody's standing against it. No, he's got in a very safe seat, except for that gentleman there.
Yeah, Count Binface. Who literally wears, now has anybody seen his real face? Or does he always have that, what you guys call a bin, we would call a trash can on his head?
Yeah, he always wears a bin. He does speak, he does interviews, but he always speaks through that bin hole. Huh. He's not likely to win, but the interesting new polling is that quite a large percent of Britons would like him to win. The thing is that Nigel Farage has such a safe seat that Count Binface isn't going to win. But he's making a lot of noise, as you would with a bin.
Yeah. So you think nobody opposed Farage? I mean, no serious candidate opposed Farage. This guy is kind of Pat Paulson, I guess you'd have to be a certain age to know what that reference is. But nobody seriously took on Farage just because it wouldn't have worked. Is that the deal? It's such a safe seat?
Basically, yeah. It's a safe seat. For now, at least, unless Binface makes inroads and,
Yeah, very interesting. Well, Victoria Jones, thank you so much for sharing your insights, wisdom, and life with us. The Chief Washington Analyst for the DC Radio Company. It's always wonderful talking with you, Victoria, and great to see Larry the Cat again, too. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Tom.
I hope your cats are doing well, by the way.
Very well.
Okay, ours are, too. So,
good.
Thank you, Victoria. 18 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than it was under Biden?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
16 minutes past the hour. Excuse me. We'll be right back. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Michael in Bronx, New York. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, Bob. I thought to call you in regards to Trump's last week. And I don't know if you know that only 2 networks covered it, Fox and CBS, while all the other networks declined covering it.
Right.
What's so significant is that one of the 2 networks decided to cut him off early.
Yeah, it was CBS, wasn't
it? It was Fox.
Oh, it was Fox. Okay.
Fox cut it off and said that we cannot verify what Trump is saying.
Well, they spent $700 million for those lies. I don't think they want to revisit that.
Right, exactly. And CBS, what they did was they had a split screen. They put him on mute while fact-checking him and bringing people up to reality. And they showed him still talking like he was talking to dead air. The only thing he saw was lips moving. Now, Trump is still with this 2020 election lie and keep repeating it. And he says, what we're going to have to do is this or that. Officially, he's not on the ballot. Let's get that straight again.
And he knows it, by the way.
And he knows that, okay? So why the hell is he so obsessed with not just the 2020 election, but this obsession of wanting to control the outcome of this coming midterm elections and beyond? And the answer is because he himself said it months ago, telling Republicans, you got to win these midterms because the Democrats win it, they're going to impeach me, And meanwhile, this guy wants to keep going on with his criminal spree and et cetera, the grifter, the violence that still goes on. And no doubt, Democrats get control of Congress, there will be accountability.
Yeah, and I think this is why Vance is trying to play the role of the statesman. He's basically saying to the Republicans in the Senate who will be voting on an impeachment bill, I'm okay, I'm safe, you can trust me, I'm one of you guys, I will be there for you. You can get rid of Trump and I'll make things well. But
he's on record for BSing the American people as well.
Of course, but in ways that are Republican acceptable. I mean, in ways that only enhance the wealth of the morbidly rich. I mean, that's what J.D. Vance has been doing. So that's okay with them.
I don't think the American people is going to fall for it. I mean, they've been paying attention to this and that, and if they even think of lying for once, I mean, if I call them out, I'm questioning them, and they could lie to me, I'll be like, shut your mouth, roll the footage, and then impeach their credibility right on the spot.
Well, I think it's a very real possibility, Michael, if the election does not, if the Democrats seize either the House or the Senate, and ideally both, but, odds are just the House. If that happens, I think there's a very real chance that at this time next year, we will be talking about President Vance, not President Trump.
Well, there's a poll
and that will renew
Democrats
the possibility of the Republicans taking the White House or holding the White House in 2028, at least in their minds. I think that on the other hand, Trump is, there's buzz that Trump is talking about Don Jr. being the nominee in 2028. So,
oh, please.
Yeah, exactly. Michael, thank you for the call. 21 minutes past the hour. The Commonwealth Report is journalism that works for you, not corporations, not billionaires. News for the public, not the powerful. Twice a day, we break down what matters to your life. Visit CommonwealthReport.news and join us today. Stay informed, stay empowered. Welcome back, 21 minutes past the hour. So this is weird. I mean, this story, the Washington Examiner, I lived in Washington, D.C. for 7 years. The Washington Examiner is the local right-wing rag. It's the local right-wing newspaper. In fact, it's sponsored by some right-wing billionaires or something. I don't know, because they give it away for free everywhere. And two of their reporters, Anna Giratelli and Christian Daytok, reported on yesterday, citing, quote, current ICE enforcement and removal operations officers as well as retired senior ICE officials still dialed into daily operations, end of quote, that morale at ICE has fallen, quote, lower than it was under former President Joe Biden. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is being run by a former plumber, Markwayne Mullin. That's basically, what he's done with his life. I mean, he was a United States Senator for a little while because his state decided to send him, a plumber to Congress. But he's having some problems, shall we say, with Donald Trump. Apparently, when he said ICE should stop their traffic stops, and then Trump came out and canceled that less than 24 hours later, it pissed off Trump that Markwayne Mullin had made a decision without asking him first. And so whether Mullen is groveling, he's going to make one of these famous pilgrimages down to Mar-a-Lago to shine Trump's shoes or kiss his butt or something, I don't know. We'll see. So there's that. And then, basically what this article says is that these ICE officers are saying that it's just become a crap show there. It's just become a complete mess. That ICE is being badly managed. That they're taking people who should not be on the street and throwing them out there. And I mean, we're certainly seeing that. They're killing people. They're brutalizing people. Another officer with more than, this is from this article, another officer with more than a decade of experience said people are being pushed to the breaking point. I don't know where it'll go, but it's nowhere good. It's a quote from the article. This is an officer who actually supported Donald Trump. He said, many on the right will think this is an attack on Trump. I voted for Trump this time around. I believe in immigration enforcement. But man, it is so disorganized and chaotic. I've talked to many officers who said that at least former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, now this is under Biden, at least Mayorkas showed appreciation by giving us administrative leave. The article goes on to note that officers red-flagged younger officers being tossed down the street without adequate training. ICE currently has about 6,000 people on the streets, but they have 10,000 people in training right now. So within the next couple of months, and Trump is trying to get them out there before the election, he wants to double the size of ICE before the election. Now, what does the election have to do with this? You'll have to ask Donald Trump. One immigration officer in Texas claimed that the office officials work out of doesn't even have a bathroom, so they have to walk through past demonstrators to go pee. The DHS responded to the claims in a statement saying, and this is a quote, this is how the DHS responded to an article in a conservative newspaper. I shouldn't say the, because now the Washington Post is a conservative newspaper now that it's owned by billionaire oligarch Jeff Bezos. But the most conservative newspaper in Washington, D.C., this is how they responded, quote, the worst thing for morale is sanctuary politicians' constant smears against ICE, including likening them to the Gestapo, slave patrols, and secret police. This type of rhetoric is contributing to our officers facing coordinated campaigns of violence against them, including a more than 1,300% increase in assaults against them, 3,300% increase in vehicle attacks, and an 8,000% increase in death threats. President Trump and Secretary Mullen will always stand with our ICE law enforcement officers. Yeah, as long as you keep killing people, right? Keep terrorizing people, keep wearing those masks. Wow. It's interesting that in places like Russia, when Putin fields the secret police, or the old Shah with Savak, the secret police in Iran, that they managed to get away with it. And here, and I see this as a good sign for the future of the possibility that we may return, that we may abandon oligarchy and return to democracy, that Trump's efforts to create a secret police force that has impunity, that can kill American citizens with literally no accountability, without Americans even knowing who killed them, the names, that system is internally in turmoil. That seems to me like a good thing, like a good sign for our democracy. But what say you? I'll pick up your calls after the break. It's 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truth, ICE would really rather you didn't know all about it. I'll be right back with your calls. Republicans fund an illegal war while groceries soar, plus a Saudi nuclear giveaway, gutted election defenses, ICE called a powder keg, a fake stock ban, and underwater heroes. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can follow us at commonwealthreport.news. Who's paying for Trump's Iran war? The House just handed the Pentagon $1.15 trillion. That's the biggest military authorization in American history, up from $900 billion last year, and it squeaked through 216 to 212. 67 Republicans voted no, 6 Democrats voted yes. When Republicans passed a budget blueprint opening the door to $73 billion more, most of it for a war in Iran that Trump started without even asking Congress, Pete Hegseth told senators the war's already cost $37.5 billion. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans now say groceries are unaffordable, up from 45% before the bombs started falling. Congressman Jerry Nadler called it, quote, a costly bad bill that funds an illegal war. When the money always finds its way to the war and never to your kitchen table, that's not a budgeting problem, that's a democracy problem. Why are we selling Saudi Arabia the very thing we're bombing Iran over? Energy Secretary Chris Wright signed a nuclear cooperation deal with Saudi Arabia on Wednesday that puts the kingdom on a path to enriching its own uranium. Think of that. I mean, we're at war with Iran, and the stated reason is stopping Tehran from enriching uranium at home. Now we're handing that same capability to a monarchy whose crown prince has said flat out he'll build a bomb if Iran gets one. The deal skips conventional international inspections, so Trump had to sign a national security waiver to push it through. Senator Ed Markey warned it risks, quote, igniting an arms race in the region. The United Arab Emirates took American reactors and gave up enrichment. That was supposed to be the gold standard. Congress has 90 days to stop this one. Ask your senator what they intend to do with them. Who's guarding the voting machines now? Trump went on primetime television on July 16th and said America must take urgent action to protect our voting systems from foreign attack. Now, here's the thing. He's the one who tore the protection apart. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, created during his own first term, has lost roughly a third of its workforce. Staffing dropped from about 3,400 to 2,500. The election security advisors who worked hand in hand with state officials were cut loose. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was dissolved on Pam Bondi's first day in office. The Foreign Maligned Office Center is gone too. Election officials in both parties say they're scrambling to plug the holes before the midterms. Remember, Trump fired the last CISA director for saying the 2020 election was the most secure in American history, and now he wants credit for worrying about it? Why are ICE officers saying morale is worse than under Biden? This story broke in the Washington Examiner, a conservative outlet, so nobody gets to call it a hit piece. Current officers and retired ICE officials say morale has fallen lower than it was under Joe Biden. One officer who voted for Trump called the whole operation disorganized and chaotic. New recruits are getting pushed onto the streets before their background checks even clear, while experienced officers get shielded from making arrests. About 6,000 officers are working enforcement right now, with 10,000 more in training. Time off gets denied. Days off get canceled. One Texas office doesn't even have a bathroom, so agents walk past protesters to find one. Officers called the agency, quote, a powder keg ready to blow. 2 men have already been shot dead by immigration officers in Texas and Maine. Chaos at the top always lands hardest on somebody else's family. Is a stock trading ban really a voter suppression bill? The House passed what Republicans are calling a congressional stock trading ban, 232 and 100 to 198, with 13 Democrats joining every Republican. Except it doesn't ban owning stocks. It only blocks new purchases. And the penalty is $2,000 or 10% of the trade. Not one member of Congress has ever been prosecuted under the existing law. Then Speaker Mike Johnson stapled voter identification requirements onto it, the same restrictions that have stalled out in the Senate. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a fake stock trading ban. A real one is sitting right there, the Bipartisan Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would force members to sell off their individual stocks within 180 days. Republicans won't bring it to the floor. They'd rather have the press release and the voter ID than real reform. Old ladies against underwater garbage? Susan Bauer is 86 years old and she runs a diving crew. Back in 2017, she got tired of finding beer cans in the Cape Cod ponds where she swims, so she grabbed 2 swimmers and a kayaker and told them to start cleaning. They named themselves Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage. Today, several dozen women between 65 and 85 clean around 20 ponds a year, and they've hauled up at least 6,000 pounds of trash. Car batteries, spent fireworks leaking perchlorates, an 80-pound toilet, the back end of a Corvette. Every diver has to swim half a mile in under 30 minutes to qualify. Member Maggie McGaw said, quote, "This is so tangible and immediate. No committee, no federal grant, just old ladies in wetsuits doing the work nobody in power bothered to do." And that's the way it is today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. My daily writings, where I take on the big picture issues of our day, at hartmanreport.com. Find the Thom Hartmann program wherever you go. In addition to radio stations across the nation and Free Speech TV on Dish, Direct, and the Internet, we're also live on YouTube across most social media and Tom.tv every single weekday with clips and links as well. You know, other countries enjoy benefits like free health care in college, modern mass transit, affordable housing, food, and drugs. They also have inexpensive internet and phone service without companies listening and selling their information. Schools that don't need to mention school shooters. Streets and parks filled with pedestrians and children instead of tents and homeless people. We, on the other hand, have the world's largest collection of billionaires. Most Americans probably didn't realize this was the choice they were making back in the election of 1980 when Reagan and Bush promised morning in America. But here we are. We have been just basically sold out to the billionaires by all these years of Republican, Reaganomics. What do we do about it? Well, there's a lot we can do about it, and it starts with getting politically active. There's a great op-ed about this over at hartmanreport.com. It's titled, "America Chose Wealth Over Well-Being." Check it out. Welcome back, 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. John in Minneapolis. Hey, John, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Patriot Act and how that enabled this whole issue of, basically going after people exercising free speech, journalists mostly. And actually, I think your show might have been mentioned. But, the first time that they actually went after people, what they did was, I know it happened here, there were a group of people who had, gone to Colombia as private citizens and were there at a meeting of the FARC and Colombian officials. It was, basically an educational thing that was going on. And when they came back under the Patriot Act, they were accused of giving material support to terrorists, right. According to, Bush. And they came to their house, and this is the kind of thing they do. I mean, it was, I think it was thrown out, actually. But they went in and they rummaged through their entire house, took all their belongings, threw them out in the, in a big pile, took their, computers and cell phones, etc. So even if in the end they don't get anywhere, just the fear that they create. And right now, I guess they're going after breakthrough news. I listen to them, in the mornings on Free Speech TV. I listen to Amy Goodman religiously and give to her show. And they, they're threatening to go after these people. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if a person says, "Oh, I'm a Marxist," as long as they respect the rule of law, the democracy, and the Constitution. They have a right to be whatever they want to be. Right. That's democracy.
Right. They could claim to be a Martian
that's all
or an
I wanted
angel.
to say.
Yeah, I agree,
well,
John.
whatever, yeah.
During the first Trump administration, they tried prosecuting people who went to Cuba, saying that if you went to Cuba and you spent even $1, that you were providing material support to terrorists. Obama did away with that for 4 years, and or for 8 years, rather. During which time Louise and I spent, visited Cuba for a week on one of these educational tours. Although we did not, we were told not to spend our own money, which was interesting. It's I don't know. It looks to me like part of this is Marco Rubio wanting to be president and thinking that taking out Cuba is going to be the thing that's going to make him the guy, the first Cuban-American president. And or on the other hand, just a convenient way to take down anybody on the left because people have been going to Cuba for a long time, and we'll see how it plays out. It doesn't seem like a good thing, though. I'm with you, John. Thank you. Well said. Chuck in Mountain Home, Arkansas. Hey, Chuck, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Are you a professor? Or maybe you are, maybe you're not. But I learn a lot on your show.
Well, thank you.
I get $1,000 a month retirement, 68 years old. Mm-hmm. And I actually learned a good trade. I was a body man and still didn't make enough money to really get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Well, I went to the store yesterday, and part of my retirement is I get food stamps, $87 a month. Mm-hmm. Well, I asked the lady at the store, I'd known it for 30 years, I go, can I buy ice cream? Because something come over my lady friend's phone saying something. Mm-hmm. And I went to buy the ice cream, and it wouldn't accept it. They couldn't take it off. So she actually bought the ice cream for me. I don't buy sweets normally. Yeah. But I guess they took every kind of sweets off of there without letting anyone know. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor here. And the thing of it is why didn't they write anyone a letter telling us what we can and cannot buy? I don't mind that. It's not that big of a deal to me. But it is to some people. But also, I have one of those government phones. Mm-hmm. Well, my sister sent me this phone because she couldn't get a hold of me no more on the other phone. They'd shut that phone off.
Yeah, they called them Obama phones, although the program was started under George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah, well, it don't work. Okay, it just doesn't work. Yeah. And I would like your listeners to look up a book. And I read this. My wife read it to me. I'm not a real good reader. I'm an information reader. I read sequences, the engines, things like that, but nothing else. But she read it's called the Cooper Report. So I knew all this was going to happen before it happened. So I just didn't think I'd be alive. So I'd like them to go ahead and look up that book and read that.
Okay.
So and maybe you pick that up too, because I learned a lot from your show.
Well, thank you, Chuck.
I mean, I record you.
Thank you. What they're trying to do is basically add insult to injury. According to the Republican worldview and the billionaire worldview, being poor is a moral failing in their minds.
It's slavery.
Yeah.
What they're going to do is make us slaves.
Exactly. Well, and what they've done
that's what's in that book.
Yeah, they've created an economic and political system that forces at least half of America into poverty, and then they say, and it's your fault. And and it's not your fault. I mean, it's a system. I mean, you got a minimum wage there in Arkansas, $7.25 an hour. That's nuts. Nobody can live on that. And then they punish people for being on food stamps. So they punish people or insult them. We're not going to let you buy ice cream. It's just a bad boy. We're going to slap you around. And then they rationalize by saying, well, we're trying to make people healthy because we care about them. No, you don't care about them. So yeah, I get it, Chuck. I get it. Thanks for the call, and thanks for raising the issues and telling us about that book. I appreciate it. And say hi to your wife for us.
Okay, well, you'll find out if you read that book.
Okay, you got it.
What's going on?
You got it. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you very much.
Sure enough.
I watch your show religiously.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck. Donna in Shelton, Washington. Hey, Donna, what's on your mind today?
You just had a caller recently about his anti-fascist thing that he was going to put on his T-shirt. Mm-hmm. I have a yard sign that I made. It says, I'm not sure how to say it, Antifa equals anti-fascism. Right. Yes, I am. So were FDR, Truman, Churchill, Patton, Eisenhower, JFK, Anne Frank, Rosie the Riveter, my family, and yours.
That's brilliant.
I know it's kind of long, but it's a yard sign, and it slows my traffic down.
Wow, that's brilliant. Do you live on a busy street?
Not really. I live out in the woods, so it's not very busy. But
gotten any feedback on it?
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, that's just marvelous.
I have another sign that I made for the 4th of July, and it says 248 and a half years of democracy, 1.5 for Trump, GOP, and the Supreme Court to go fascist.
Wow. You're kicking ass there, Donna. You're doing good. I'm impressed. Donna, thank you for sharing the stories with us. I appreciate it. Chaz in Lakewood, Washington. Hey, Chaz, what's up?
Spasiba, comrade, is another glorious day in Trumpistan, is it not?
Здравствуйте, товарищ.
We. I'd like to think we're friends, right, Tom?
I think so.
Can you watch the kids for a couple hours?
It would be quite a trek, you know.
I appreciate you indulging me, man. I just wanted to lighten the mood. I just wanted to say it seems appropriate that Trump's contribution to history can be summed up in the term explosive diarrhea so that Reagan's trickle down could live on.
Indeed, and it's explosive Trumperia.
Yeah, I agree. Right on the money. Oh, and also I heard that they're all drinking MAGA Blast.
What's that?
Like Baja Blast. You probably don't drink Mountain Dew.
No, I don't know what Baja Blast is.
Yeah, I want to say that we have our own Larry the Cat, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, you know who Mark Maron is in his podcast, right?
Oh, yeah. I used to, Mark and I were on Air America together. I used to know Mark pretty well. Why?
So you know that he had a feral cat that he grew attached to over the years.
Yeah.
And then one day it just disappeared. And now he always signs off his podcast, the last I heard, with Boomer Lives. And I'm wondering, just one show, you could say Wolfie lives.
Yeah. Well, sadly, Wolfie doesn't, but I get it. Okay, Chaz, thank you.
Yeah, I miss him.
We lost both Wolfie and Fang, in the last 6 months. It was kind of a sad period, but life goes. I mean, they were both old cats. So and Louise got a new kitten.
Them fondly.
So on. The great circle of life continues. Chaz, thanks for the call.
And I'd rather have them, as part of our history than never had to have them at all.
Well, thank you, Chaz. Good talking to you. Yeah, I appreciate it and look forward to future conversations. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll take a quick break here, and I'll pick up your calls on the other side of it. It's the Thom Hartmann program, the place where despair is not an option. We really can't, allow ourselves to slip into despair or despondency. We've got to instead look forward to a positive future that we can build. We really can if we work at it. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where smart people get their news. 46 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with you. And welcome back. Sean in Britain, South Dakota. Hey, Sean, what's on your mind today?
Well, I have a point to make and a question to ask, and I'll do them both at the same time and then let you answer if that's okay.
Sure.
The question is, hasn't the Trump administration crossed over into the legal standard for treason when you talked about those CIA locations being extremely top secret, and the only way Iran could have gotten that information would have been from Russia? And the point I want to make is that should we be fortunate enough to have Nuremberg-style trials, there has to be punishment. There just has to be, or this is just going to happen again.
So you're opposed to a Truth and Reconciliation Commission?
I am.
Yeah. I'm torn, Sean. I get it on the one hand that these people are committing crimes, not just against us. I mean, literally killing people, enacting policies that are causing the deaths of Americans, cutting people off from their health care, cutting them off from food stamps, things like that. In addition to ICE actually just putting guns to people's heads and pulling triggers. And yet, on the other hand, they are our fellow citizens. And although, generally speaking, when people commit crimes, you put them in jail, and Republicans seem to be quite enthusiastic about that. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
They have robbed the American people blind. We are
$70
basically
trillion.
insolvent at this point.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of that money has gone into some personal pockets, and people have lost their lives.
Yep.
And if Texas can execute a person for being in the wrong place at the wrong time and knowing somebody who committed a murder, then surely we can put these people on trial and we can exact punishment.
Yeah.
What that punishment will be, I don't know, but there has to be punishment.
Yeah.
There has to be.
Yeah, after Nuremberg, people were hanged. I don't think anybody is suggesting that, but we do have plenty of jail space in the United States right now. Sean, thank you. Thank you very much for the call. Lou in Picayune, Mississippi. Hey, Lou, what's up?
Hi, Tom. You're going to disagree with this, but I think Trump, everyone who voted for the Iraq War, all the criminals in the administration who had to do with Iran, should, and you're going to disagree with this, be sent to Iran, let them try them. And my rationale is the next Republican administration will just pardon them,
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, maybe one solution would be to say that all the guys who voted for the war in Iran have to, when Trump decides he's going to put ground troops on Kharg Island, they have to be among them or something like that.
Well,
I mean, Eisenhower was there,
Yeah. I don't mean the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
Even necessarily the person who are guiding the buttons.
Yeah.
But those who knew they were bombing a girls' school, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's very problematic because we had known apparently for at least a decade that was a girls' school. And not only did we bomb it, but we double tapped it, which is a war crime. We bombed it, and then when all the parents and the medics showed up to try to help, we bombed it again and killed them. And that's insane. Lou, thank you for the call. It's 10 minutes before the hour. I'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back, 10 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here, George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. Hey, George, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how you doing there? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps just threatened to hit any UK base that supports U.S. attacks on Iran, and they specifically mentioned a base in England from which B-1 bombers took off to bomb Iran during the latest rounds of attack. Now, that would be a significant increase in the war.
Whoa, that's like Ukraine reaching out to Siberia. I mean, are they talking about?
Yeah, earlier in the war, they attacked a couple of RAF bases in Cyprus and launched a ballistic missile against the Diego Garcia UK-US base in the Indian Ocean. So they've got ballistic missiles with the range to hit England. I'm afraid if Russia supplied them with targeting and guidance information, they might be able to do it.
Wow. I know that you read the Russian newspapers because you read and speak Russian from your intelligence background. What are the Russians saying about what's all going on here in the Middle East? And are they in any way even implying that they're continuing to support Iran or supplying them with intelligence or weaponry?
Oh, definitely, yeah. They're not making any bones about it. Because they're saying that they supplied them with targeting information and enable Iran to hit U.S. air bases and take out those
Russian media is actually saying that?
I think, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I might have been mistaken about that. I have to check. Yeah, I've been recovering from surgery, so it's been kind of hard for me to keep up with things.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you're going to be well, George.
Oh, yeah, it just takes a long time at my age. I want to recover from that.
Yeah, I get it. I've had a few surgeries myself. It's no fun at all. And but you do make it through.
Yeah, I'll have more next week when I do some more. Keep up the good work. Yeah, Chuck and I may be mistaken about what they're saying, but I know from other reports Russia's definitely providing with targeting and data info.
Yeah, it's just incredible to me that Russia is helping Iran kill American soldiers, and nobody is flipped out about the fact that Donald Trump is having hour-and-a-half-long conversations with Vladimir Putin every 2 weeks and has since he came into office, that our Secretary of State met in secret with the Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, and that our FBI director is going to go over to Moscow on a trip to be escorted by the FSB, the reincarnated KGB. It just blows my mind. I mean, where's Joe McCarthy when you need him? I mean, it just blows my mind, George.
Yeah, it would be as bad as FDR talking to Hitler after Hitler killed U.S. soldiers in Normandy.
Yeah, that's a reasonable analogy. It really is.
Disgraceful.
Yeah, it is. It is disgraceful. George, thank you very much for the call, and I wish you the very best in your recovery from the surgery and your next one next week. Keep the faith, my brother.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tom. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, George. Michael in Seattle. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Michael, hey, this is Michael. Yes, just wanted to talk about the non-proliferation agreement that the U.S. signed with Saudi Arabia.
Was it a non-proliferation agreement? I thought it was a you may proliferate agreement.
Well, they're bringing together two big powers in the world, big economic powers, and they
mean Saudi
need
Arabia
power.
and the United States?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They need more power, probably for AI and the like, and we're agreeing to help them develop nuclear power.
But nuclear power, number one, it's going to take them, it takes a decade to build a nuclear power plant, or at least 4 or 5 years, number one. Number two, they've got an unlimited resource in the sun there. I mean, they could lay out solar panels, and in less than a year, they could generate more electricity than, China, in the last 2 years, China has put out enough solar panels to generate more power than 60 nuclear power plants.
That may be the case, but they have also developed lots of other power.
No, they want the nuclear power plants because nuclear power plants can be used to enrich uranium. And that enriched uranium can be used to make bombs. That's why they want a nuclear power plant. Let's be real about this. It's not about electricity. You and I both know that.
But in this AI world,
it's got nothing to do with AI, Michael. This has to do with Saudi Arabia wanting to have the same thing that Russia has, or that Israel has. Israel has multiple nuclear weapons. Saudi Arabia wants to have them. They want to be an equal in the region. And Trump is going to give them whatever they want because they've given him and his family several $1 billion.
That may be the case. However,
it is the case.
AI needs every single sort of power.
No, it just needs electricity, Michael. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Michael, I got to run. I'm sorry, I'm out of time. And thank you, Michael, though, for the call. And thank you for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Anything Goes Friday, in fact, tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Stay safe, and I will catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Years ago.